Hey Trinity Church. Today in our whole story devotional, we're in Ephesians 4, and we're going to focus in on verses 20 through 24. They say, "That, however, is not the way of life you learned when you heard about Christ and were taught in him in accordance with the truth that is in Jesus. You were taught with regard to your former way of life, to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness." So I want to compare that passage to another theology that I believe many people in our world today believe. And I'm going to call it the Santa Claus theology. And so here is a passage from that theology. It says, "You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. He's making a list. He's checking it twice. He's gonna find out who's naughty or nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake." I think many of us have fallen into a trap of thinking that God is a lot like Santa, that he sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. So man, we better watch out. We better not cry. We better not pout. We better be good for goodness sake. Because when he does come, he's coming to judge. He's coming to look for those works and say, "What have you done for me?" But the good news is that, not trying to be the Grinch here, but the good news, the better news, is that Jesus came not looking for milk or cookies or good works. He came to save you. He came to be a servant, not to be served. And so I want to look at three things, three reasons why this is good news, and three reasons why we're not just good for goodness sake. And so the first is that you have a family. Verse 25 says, "Therefore each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body." You're not alone. It's not about your works. It's not about what you've done. That you're in this family that has decided to say, "We trust Christ, not what we've done." And it's speaking that truth over your family, that you're united together. Because holiness is something that keeps us together. Sin is something that divides. And so we seek holiness. We seek goodness, not for goodness sake, but for the sake of our family. The second reason is that we have an enemy. Verse 27 says, "And do not give the devil a foothold." The ESV says, "Do not give the devil an opportunity." And so like I said, sin separates. And so the devil, he tries to cause you to sin, to follow your old self, your sinful nature, so that he has an opportunity to scoot in and to cause even more division among you, making you mad at yourself, division from your family, division from your friends, divisions from the people in your life who you love, even division from your enemies, because we're called to love our enemies. Even division from Christ himself, where we feel distant from him. And so we seek holiness and we seek goodness for the sake of fighting the enemy. And the third reason is because we have a good king. That verse 24 says, "And to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness." And then we see in verse 32, it says, "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you." Jesus, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, stepped down out of heaven. He didn't come down and ask, "What have you done for me?" He came down and said, "This is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to serve you. I'm going to wash your feet. I'm going to die on a cross so that you can come closer and be reunited to me in goodness and in holiness." And so we seek Christ because he is the good King who came down to us and loves us so much. And that's why we can beat the enemy. Because of our King, he's given us victory over hell. He's given us victory over Satan, over the enemy, over our old self. That's why we can love our family, because Jesus came and showed us what it means to forgive, shows us what it means to lay down our lives for people. And so Trinity Church, don't settle for being good for goodness sake. Look at Christ and be good for Jesus' sake, because he loves you and calls you to holiness.